The sun of Valora Prime rose in strange colors that morning. Deep gold and violet streaks painted the sky as if the heavens themselves were preparing for battle. The planet had always been peaceful, known for its floating cities and the gentle hum of its wind towers. But on that day, peace was only a fading memory. In the capital's grand court, Queen Althea stood at the edge of her crystal balcony, her silver armor reflecting the light. Her long white braids rested on her shoulders like streams of moonlight. She looked toward the horizon, where dark shapes were forming in the clouds. Ships, hundreds of them. Her advisor, Elder Varin, ran into the chamber with panic in his voice. "Your Majesty, the sky fleet of Dravos is approaching. They've broken the peace treaty." Queen Althea didn't flinch. Her emerald eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. "Then it begins," she said softly. The alarms began to echo across the capital. Soldiers gathered, the airships activated their shields, and the people of Valora ran for shelter. For the first time in a century, the ancient bells of war were ringing again. Far beyond the palace, a young pilot named Aaron was repairing an old scout craft in the city's outer hangar. He wasn't part of the royal army, just an engineer who had once served as a test pilot. But when the first explosions echoed across the mountains, something in his heart told him he couldn't stand aside. He rushed outside, his hands covered in grease, and saw streaks of red fire in the sky. Enemy ships were breaking through the city's defense line. One of them exploded near the palace. The shockwave threw him backward, but he got up again, coughing through the smoke. He looked up, eyes burning. "Not again," he whispered to himself. Inside the palace, the queen stood firm. Her soldiers waited for her command. "Activate the solar shields. Prepare the evacuation tunnels, and send a message to all free fleets," she ordered. "We fight for Valora." Moments later, the sky turned into chaos. Blazing trails of energy cut through the clouds. The royal fleet rose like shining birds, their engines glowing blue. The sound of war filled the air. Metal clashing, thunder echoing, voices shouting orders. Aaron managed to get his old scout craft running. Its wings were cracked, its shield weak, but it was fast enough to reach the Queen's line. As he lifted off, his cockpit rattled violently, but he smiled. "Let's go, old friend," he said to his ship. The battle was fierce. The Dravos invaders came in dark insect-like ships, their weapons crackling with crimson light. They were faster and stronger, their technology far beyond anything Valora had seen. The Queen's fleet began to fall back. Aaron dove through the smoke, weaving between wreckage and fire. He saw royal fighters being shot down, their blue flames vanishing into the clouds. His scanner beeped. A large enemy cruiser was targeting the palace directly. Without thinking, he pushed his craft to full speed. He launched his last missile at the cruiser's reactor core. The explosion lit up the sky, tearing the ship apart. Debris scattered across the clouds like burning stars. Down below, Queen Althea saw the explosion from her balcony. The cruiser had been seconds away from striking her city. Someone had saved them, but who? Aaron's ship was hit by the shockwave. The cockpit alarm screamed. He lost control, spinning downward. The engines burst into flames. He tried to eject, but the system jammed. The last thing he saw was the palace tower, growing larger as he fell toward it. The Queen ordered her guards to send rescue teams into the crash zone. Hours later, through smoke and ash, they found a man unconscious near the wreck. His uniform was torn, his face covered in soot, but his heartbeat was steady. The Queen herself came down to the site. When she looked at him, her breath caught. His face was unfamiliar, but something deep inside her felt strange, like a memory buried in time. She knelt beside him, touching his burned glove. "Who are you?" she whispered. He didn't answer. He was barely breathing. "Take him to the healing chamber," she ordered softly. "No one else touches him." As they carried him away, thunder rolled across the sky again. The war was far from over. But that moment, that quiet glance between a fallen pilot and a battle-worn queen, would change the fate of Valora forever. Outside the city, fires still burned. Ships fell like stars, and above it all, the Queen looked toward the heavens once more. For the first time in her reign, she felt fear, not of war, but of something far older. Something she couldn't yet name. The sound of distant thunder still echoed over the city when Aaron finally opened his eyes. At first, everything was a blur. Soft golden light, the hum of machines, and the faint scent of silver herbs used by the royal healers of Valora. His body felt weightless, wrapped in a healing field that pulsed gently around him. He blinked slowly, his vision clearing. He was lying inside a circular chamber made of crystal and metal, glowing softly from within. The walls shimmered like living glass, responding to his heartbeat. He turned his head and saw a tall figure standing beside him, a woman in armor, her silver hair braided, her green eyes sharp yet calm. Queen Althea. "You're awake," she said softly. Her voice carried strength, but there was something else. Curiosity, maybe even warmth. Aaron tried to sit up, but pain shot through his chest. The Queen raised a hand. "Don't move. You've been through the fire. Our healers had to reconstruct half your flight suit from your own DNA. He looked confused. "DNA? How long was I out?" 3 days, she replied. "You saved the city. You destroyed the Dravos cruiser before it hit the palace. Without you, Valora would have fallen." Aaron blinked again, trying to remember. The explosion, the fall, the light. It was all fragments in his head. "I just did what I had to," he said quietly. "But I don't even know how I got here." The Queen looked at him for a long moment. "You were found near the palace gates. Your ship was completely destroyed, but somehow you survived. You're not part of our army, are you?" He shook his head. "No, ma'am. I was just an engineer. I wasn't supposed to be flying at all." She smiled faintly. "An engineer who flies straight into a war zone to save a planet? You sound like someone I've known before." Her words made him look up. There was something strange in her tone, something that stirred an echo inside him. He didn't know why, but looking into her eyes made him feel something old, familiar, like he had seen them before in another time, another life. Outside the healing chamber, the war had not ended. Reports came in of Dravos reinforcements on the outer moons. The royal fleet was regrouping, but losses were heavy. The Queen's Council urged her to evacuate the capital. She refused. "I will not abandon Valora," she said, "not when we still have hope." When she returned to Aaron's chamber, he was sitting up, still weak but alert. The healers had given him a new uniform. Simple, clean, marked with the insignia of Valora's guardians. He stood slowly as she entered. "You should be resting," she said. "I've rested enough," he replied. "If there's still a war, I want to help." She raised an eyebrow. "You can barely walk," he smiled. "Then I'll crawl to the fight if I have to." For the first time, the Queen laughed, a small, quiet laugh that surprised even her. "You're stubborn," she said. "Just like him." "Like who?" he asked. She hesitated, her gaze softening. "Someone I once knew. Long ago, before the Great Peace. He was a warrior from another world. He saved me more than once." He had the same look in his eyes, the same way of speaking. Aaron frowned. "What happened to him?" Her expression darkened. "He died, or at least—" "That's what I was told." There was a silence between them, heavy, full of meaning neither of them could explain. Outside, the palace lights flickered as another tremor shook the city. The Queen looked toward the window. "They're advancing again," she said. "The Dravos have sent ground troops." Aaron stood straighter. "Then let me go. I can fly, I can repair, I can fight. Just give me something that works." She studied him carefully. Something about his determination struck deep in her heart. "You remind me of a promise," she whispered. "A promise I thought was lost." He tilted his head. "A promise?" Before she could answer, the alarm sounded again, a deep, vibrating hum through the palace halls. The guards rushed in. "Your Majesty, the outer defense lines are collapsing." She looked back at Aaron. "You said you wanted to help. Come with me." They ran through the palace corridors together. The halls glowed with shifting light as defense drones flew overhead. Outside, the sky was burning red again. Aaron followed the Queen to the command balcony, where holographic maps displayed enemy movements. He quickly studied the screen. "They're hitting your southern flank. If they break through there, the palace is surrounded." "You understand military code?" she asked. "Used to work for the planetary defense back home," he replied, tapping on the display. "But these ships, they're not Dravos design. Look here, hybrid tech. Someone else is backing them." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "A hidden force? More like someone who doesn't want Valora to stand," he said grimly. As the Queen ordered her generals to reposition the fleet, Aaron's mind kept flashing with strange images, battles in places he didn't recognize, faces of soldiers he never met, and a woman in armor, crying in the rain. He didn't know what it meant. But when he looked at Queen Althea again, the vision stopped, as if his mind recognized her presence. Later that night, after the fighting calmed for a while, she met him again on the balcony. The stars were faint through the smoke. "Do you ever feel like you've lived this before?" she asked suddenly. He turned to her, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Like time is repeating itself," she said. "Like everything happening now has already happened, maybe in another life." Aaron didn't know what to say. He looked into her emerald eyes, the same eyes that haunted his dreams since childhood. "Maybe it has," he whispered. "Maybe that's why I can't forget those eyes." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind moved softly between them. The Queen turned away, her voice trembling slightly. "Rest, Aaron. Tomorrow, everything changes." He nodded, but deep inside he knew something was already changing. The war outside was fierce, but the war inside his memories had just begun. The night on Valora Prime was silent, but uneasy. The stars above the palace flickered faintly, hidden behind layers of smoke from the ongoing war. The Queen couldn't sleep. She stood near the balcony, her eyes fixed on the night sky, where glowing embers still floated from distant fires. Something inside her heart kept whispering. A name, a memory, a feeling that wouldn't fade. And every time she tried to push it away, she saw the pilot's face again. Aaron, his voice, his courage, his eyes. Those eyes. She had seen them before. She was sure of it. But it was impossible. Down below, the healers had given Aaron a clean suit and permission to walk again. The wounds on his body had mostly healed, but the storm in his mind had only grown stronger. Dreams haunted him every time he closed his eyes. Flashes of another world, another battle, and a woman who looked exactly like Queen Althea. He saw her standing in the rain, holding a broken crown. He saw himself reaching for her before the light swallowed everything. Then he always woke up, heart pounding, unable to breathe. That morning, he went to the palace balcony, where the Queen often stood. She was already there, wearing her battle armor again, gazing at the sunrise. The air between them felt strange. Not cold, not warm, just familiar. "Your Majesty," he said quietly. She turned, her expression softening. "Aaron, you should still be resting." "I can't rest," he admitted. "Every time I close my eyes, I see things. You. Another place. Another time." The Queen froze. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then slowly, she walked closer to him. "Tell me what you see." He hesitated. "I see you wearing the same crown. But your world looked different. There were no airships, no towers, just ruins. You were alone. You called my name before everything turned to light." Her heart skipped. "You remember my name?" Aaron looked confused. "I don't even know why I said that. It just came out. I don't understand what's happening to me." The Queen studied him closely. There was no doubt anymore. His voice, his face, his eyes. The resemblance to the man she once knew was beyond chance. But that man, her savior from centuries ago, had died long before Aaron was even born. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "some souls never truly die." He frowned. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, the palace trembled violently. The alarm blared through the halls again. Soldiers rushed in. "Your Majesty," one shouted. "Dravos ground forces have breached the eastern wall. They've released nanite drones. They're heading straight for the power core." The Queen's calm vanished. "Get everyone to safety. Aaron, with me." Without hesitation, Aaron followed her through the glowing halls. Explosions shook the ground. Sparks rained from the ceilings. The hum of energy weapons echoed everywhere. They reached the central corridor, where glowing pillars powered the city's defense shield. But the air there shimmered. Hundreds of small black metallic drones swarmed like insects, tearing through the shield matrix. "Those things will disable the entire defense grid," Aaron said. "If they reach the core, Valora is finished." The Queen drew her blade, a radiant weapon of living light. "Then we stop them here." Aaron grabbed a fallen soldier's rifle and stood beside her. Together. The corridor erupted in light and sound. The queen moved like wind, her sword slicing through drones and flashes of green and gold. Aaron covered her from behind, shooting precise bursts that melted through the swarm. One of the drones latched onto the queen's shoulder, injecting dark energy into her armor. She fell to one knee. Aaron threw his rifle aside and tore the drone off, crushing it with his hands. A surge of bright energy flowed from his palms, a golden pulse that disintegrated the drone instantly. The queen looked up, shocked. That power, where did you? He stared at his hands, trembling. I don't know. I've never done that before. But deep inside he remembered something. A glowing battlefield, the same light flowing from his hands long ago. He had used it once before, to save her. When the last of the drones fell, silence filled the corridor. Both of them were breathing hard, surrounded by the flickering remains of machines. The queen slowly stood, looking at him differently now. That light, she whispered. It was the same as his. The same power he used to protect me when the first invasion happened centuries ago. Aaron met her gaze. You mean the man you told me about, the one who died? She nodded. Yes. He was called Aaron. A warrior from a distant human colony. He appeared during the Great Collapse and saved us again and again. He vanished in the final battle. I buried his memory, but I never forgot his eyes. Aaron stepped closer, his voice quiet. And now you think I'm him? Her eyes glistened. I don't know what to think, but every time I look at you, I feel the same connection, the same hope. The palace lights flickered again. The energy core stabilized. For the moment, the war had paused. But something far bigger was unfolding, something beyond time itself. That night, when the city finally grew quiet, the queen stood alone once more on her balcony. She closed her eyes, whispering into the wind. If you truly are him, if fate has brought you back to me, then I won't lose you again. Far below, Aaron sat in the quiet hangar, staring at his hands glowing faintly in the dark. He didn't understand who he was, or why his memories didn't belong to this lifetime. But one thing he knew for certain, he could never forget those emerald eyes. Somewhere deep inside, something ancient was awakening. A bond older than lifetimes, a promise made long ago, ready to rise again in the fire of war. The dawn after. The battle was quiet, almost too quiet for a city that had been burning just hours earlier. The first rays of light touched the broken towers of Valora Prime, turning the smoke into a soft golden haze. The people were exhausted, the soldiers covered in dust and ash. But the queen had not left the command hall all night. Aaron had not slept either. He sat beside the power core chamber, staring at the faint glow in his hands. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes, not dreams, but memories. A younger version of himself fighting in a ruined city. A woman, the same emerald-eyed queen, calling his name through falling debris. A promise whispered between them before the world went dark. He didn't understand how it was possible, but the feeling was real. The light inside him was waking something old, something buried deep within his soul. When morning came, Queen Althea entered the chamber. She was wearing a long white robe instead of armor, her crown faintly glowing. Her eyes softened when she saw him. You haven't rested. He smiled faintly. I could say the same about you, Your Majesty. She stepped closer, her voice quiet. I've been speaking with Elder Varen. He believes your energy signature matches the readings from the ancient archives. There is only one other record in all of Valora with that same pattern. Aaron's. Aaron looked down. So it's true then? I'm him? The queen hesitated. Maybe not the same body, maybe not the same lifetime, but the same soul perhaps. When Aaron died, the sky itself tore open. Some said the stars carried his spirit away. Maybe the stars brought you back. Aaron felt a strange calm. I don't know if I believe in destiny, but something inside me says this isn't the first time I've fought for you. The Queen's lips trembled into a faint smile. Then maybe this time we can finish what we started. Before either could say more, the palace lights dimmed. The holographic table flickered to life, showing red signals spreading across the map. Elder Varen's voice came through the comlink. Your Majesty, enemy reinforcements detected. But it's not just Dravos ships. Something larger is emerging from the outer rings. The Queen's face hardened. Enlarge the image. The hologram zoomed out. A massive object appeared. An enormous ship, larger than any fleet vessel. It looked ancient, shaped like a living creature with wings of black metal and eyes of fire. Aaron felt a chill crawl up his spine. That's not Dravos design. That's something older. The Queen nodded slowly. The archives called it the Reclaimer, a weapon created during the First War. It was said to destroy entire star systems. The air turned heavy. If that thing reaches Valora, Aaron said quietly, there won't be a city left to protect. The Queen turned to him. Then we don't wait for it to reach us. We take the fight to it. Within hours, preparations began. The royal hangars came alive with movement. Engineers refitted broken ships, loading energy cores and plasma cannons. Aaron stood among the pilots, inspecting a sleek fighter known as the Lunaris 5. A young mechanic approached him nervously. Sir, are you sure you can fly that? It's unstable after last night's blast. Aaron gave a calm nod. I'll manage. Just make sure the engines don't die mid-flight. When he climbed into the cockpit, the ship's controls responded instantly, glowing golden under his touch. The Queen watched from the command deck, her heart heavy. She had lost him once before. She couldn't bear to lose him again. Aaron, she called through the comm channel, do not act alone. The fleet will follow your lead, but I need you to return. Do you understand? He smiled softly, his voice steady. Yes, my Queen, I'll return this time. I promise, her breath caught. Those words, the same ones Aaron had spoken before the final battle centuries ago. As the fleet launched, the skies of Valora blazed with blue light. Hundreds of ships rose together, engines humming like a storm. The Queen's voice echoed through every channel. For Valora, for our people, for the promise we made long ago. The fleet met the enemy in the upper atmosphere. The Reclaimer loomed ahead, its black surface pulsing like a heart. Swarms of Dravos drones shielded it, firing endless streams of plasma. Aaron pushed the Lunaris through the chaos, weaving between explosions. His instincts felt unnatural, precise, flawless, and as if someone else's hands were guiding him. Shields at 50%, shouted one of the pilots. Focus fire on its right wing, Aaron ordered. That's where the power conduits converge. His voice carried authority. Even the senior captains followed without question. The fleet attacked in perfect formation. Beams of blue light cut through the darkness. For a moment, the giant ship trembled. But then a deep, monstrous sound echoed across the sky. A red pulse burst from its core, striking the Valora fleet. Half the ships were torn apart instantly. Aaron's ship spun out of control. Aaron! The Queen's voice shouted through the comm. He steadied the ship, smoke rising from the wings. I'm still here, he gasped. But it's drawing energy from something. Deeper, what do you mean? It's not just metal. It's alive, the realization hit them both. The Reclaimer was no machine. It was a living weapon powered by consciousness itself. Aaron looked at his glowing hands again, feeling that same energy pulse inside him. He finally understood. The only thing that could stop the Reclaimer was the same light that once ended the First War, his own. He took a deep breath. My Queen, if I don't make it back, remember what I said. Aaron, don't you dare, but he had already cut the transmission. The Lunaris soared straight toward the monster, leaving a golden trail behind. The Queen reached out toward the screen, her voice breaking. No, not again. Outside, the sky burned brighter than ever before as his ship dove into the storm, and the forgotten promise, the one made between two souls across lifetimes, began to awaken once more. The Lunaris the 5 burned through the sky like a streak of gold, cutting across the clouds toward the dark shape that filled the heavens, the Reclaimer. It was no ordinary ship. Its surface rippled like living skin, veins of red light pulsing through its structure. The closer Aaron flew, The stronger the energy field became, warping the air around him. Inside his cockpit, alarm screamed. The ship's shields were failing, systems overheating. Still, he pressed on. His hands glowed faintly on the controls, steady and calm. He could feel the ship responding to his will, like it understood his purpose. "Aaron, come in." The Queen's voice cracked through the radio. "You're too close. The energy surge will destroy you." He smiled faintly, his voice quiet. "I know, Your Majesty. But this thing isn't just a machine, it's alive. If I can reach its heart, maybe I can shut it down. You'll die if you try. Then at least I'll finish what I started." What we started. The signal broke into static as lightning tore through the clouds. The Lunaris dived toward the center of the colossal ship. Its outer hull opened like a living mouth, swallowing him whole. Everything went dark. For a moment there was only silence. Then a heartbeat. Slow, powerful, echoing all around him. The inside of the reclaimer was like nothing he had ever seen. Walls of black and red metal pulsed with light, almost breathing. Streams of plasma flowed like blood through transparent veins. Aaron's ship landed roughly inside a massive chamber. He stepped out, his boots sinking slightly into the shifting floor. The air was heavy and warm, like standing inside a living creature. His skin tingled as if something was watching him. A deep, distorted voice filled the chamber. "Human, you return again." Aaron froze. "Who's there?" The voice rumbled, vibrating through the metal. "You are not new. You are the echo of what was lost. You carry the light that once wounded me." His heart pounded. "You remember me?" "I remember your kind," the voice replied. "You brought death to the stars. You burned worlds in the name of peace. You promised to end war, but you only created more." Aaron clenched his fists. "I'm not here to fight for war. I'm here to stop it." The walls around him glowed brighter, forming faces. Distorted reflections of human soldiers, alien queens, and burning cities. The reclaimer showed him the past. The cycle of destruction repeated countless times. "You cannot stop what you are," it said. "You are the same soul that destroyed me before." The realization hit him. The reclaimer had faced Aaron before. The same soul he now carried. Aaron looked down at his glowing hands. "Then maybe this time I can make it right." Outside in Valora's command hall, Queen Althea watched in horror as the giant structure pulsed violently. "Aaron's inside," she whispered. "He's trying to reach its core." Elder Varen turned to her. "Your Majesty, if that creature's energy collapses, it will destroy half the planet." She stepped forward. "Then I'm going after him." The room fell silent. "Your Majesty, that's suicide," Varen said. "I won't lose him again," she replied, her voice trembling but firm. "Not this time." Moments later, the royal shuttle Seraphine launched from the palace hangar, flying straight toward the burning sky. Her armor shimmered with silver light as she took control of the flight systems herself. Back inside the reclaimer, Aaron reached a vast circular platform. A glowing sphere pulsed at its center, radiating red energy. It was the heart. He stepped closer, feeling waves of heat and emotion flood his mind. Pain, sorrow, rage, voices of countless beings who had perished long ago. He fell to one knee, gripping his head. The memories weren't his, yet they filled his mind like fire. Then a voice, and soft and familiar, and whispered through the noise. "Aaron, listen to me." He looked up. The Queen's voice echoed through his comms. "You're not alone," she said. "Do you hear me?" "You don't have to carry this alone." He smiled weakly. "You shouldn't be here." "I told you I wouldn't leave you again," she said firmly. Her shuttle broke through the storm, landing inside the massive wound he had created on the reclaimer's hull. The Queen stepped out, surrounded by swirling light. When Aaron saw her, everything else faded away. The pain, the noise, the fear. Only her. "You shouldn't have come," he said softly. "I had to," she replied. "Because you once made me a promise." Aaron's eyes widened. "A promise?" Her voice trembled. "Before you died as Aaron, you said, 'If the stars fall again, I will find you.'" "I will protect you even beyond death." The chamber glowed brighter. The reclaimer's voice roared, shaking the ground. "Enough, the cycle must end. You both will perish." The red energy lashed out, striking toward them. Aaron grabbed the Queen, shielding her with his body. Golden light burst from his hands, colliding with the crimson wave. The two energies clashed, filling the chamber with blinding brilliance. "I can't hold it." Aaron shouted. "Yes, you can," the Queen cried. "Because you're not alone anymore." Their lights merged, gold and emerald weaving together, pushing against the storm. Slowly, the red energy began to fade. The reclaimer's voice weakened, trembling. This cannot be. Aaron stood tall, his entire body glowing like a star. Maybe it can. Maybe this time we choose to save instead of destroy. With one final surge of light, the heart of the reclaimer shattered. The explosion expanded outward, but instead of destruction, it turned into a wave of radiant light that spread across the sky, cleansing the dark clouds. Outside, the people of Valora looked up as the red storm faded, replaced by calm golden skies. Inside the core, the queen knelt beside Aaron. He was still breathing, but his light was fading. "Aaron, stay with me," she whispered, tears in her eyes. He smiled faintly. "I told you I'd return this time." And then, as the light faded around them, the reclaimer's heart stopped, silent at last. When the light faded, silence filled the sky. The enormous shadow of the reclaimer was gone. Nothing remained except drifting particles of gold and red, glowing softly like falling stars. Valora Prime was safe. The storm had ended. The people looked up in wonder as the clouds cleared for the first time in months. The sun rose over the broken towers, bathing the planet in calm, gentle light, but inside the remains of the alien fortress it was quiet. Too quiet. Queen Althea slowly opened her eyes. The air around her shimmered with faint light, like the world itself was still catching its breath. The ground beneath her was cracked but stable. Her armor was scorched, her crown slightly bent. "Aaron," she whispered. She looked around. He was lying nearby, motionless, surrounded by faint traces of golden energy fading into the air. She crawled to him, her voice trembling. "Aaron, please." "Open your eyes," no response. His chest rose only faintly, barely a breath. She placed her hand on his cheek, warm but fading fast. Tears welled in her emerald eyes. "You saved us again," she whispered. "Just like before. And I still couldn't save you." Her words broke into sobs. She had lived for centuries, fought in endless wars, ruled nations. But in that moment, she was not a queen. She was just a woman mourning the one soul she had never forgotten and had finally found again. Aaron's fingers twitched. Slowly, his eyes opened. They were weak, but shining with the same golden light. You're crying again," he said faintly, a small smile on his lips. She gasped, half laughing through tears. "You fool. You scared me." He tried to speak, his voice fragile. "Did we stop it?" She nodded. "It's over. The reclaimer is gone. Valora is safe," he sighed, relief softening his face. "Good. Then maybe this time it's enough." Her eyes widened. "Don't talk like that. You're going to live." He smiled again, weakly. "I don't think this body can hold much longer. But it's okay, because this time I remembered everything." She froze. "Everything?" He nodded slowly. "The first war. The promise I made when the stars were burning. I told you. I'd find you again, no matter how many lifetimes it took." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she leaned closer. "And you did," she whispered. "You found me." The golden light around him began to flicker. He looked up at the sky, which was now bright and clear. "You always loved the sunrise," he said softly. "It suits you." She held his hand tightly. "Don't go, Aaron, please, stay with me. We can rebuild Valora together. We can have peace." "You deserve peace," he smiled gently. "Maybe I already found it. Right here." The light in his eyes dimmed and his hand relaxed in hers. For a long time, the queen didn't move. She sat there holding him, her tears falling onto his armor. The wind carried the golden dust around them like glowing petals. When she finally stood, the light from his body rose slowly into the air, floating upward, drifting toward the sky until it disappeared among the stars. She whispered, "Goodbye, my savior." Days passed. The war was over. The city began to rebuild. People spoke of the mysterious light that saved them, how it destroyed the reclaimer without destroying the world. They called it the Light of Aaron, the same legend reborn through Aaron. Queen Althea returned to the palace, but she was no longer the same ruler. Her eyes carried both sadness and peace. She walked through the halls silently, her thoughts full of memories. Not just of the man she lost, but of the promise that bound them through time itself. Every night, she stood on her balcony looking at the stars. Sometimes she thought she saw a flicker of gold among them, a warm glow moving slowly across the heavens. One evening, as she watched the sky, a soft breeze brushed her hair. For a moment she heard his voice again, gentle, familiar. I told you I'd always protect you. She closed her eyes, smiling through her tears. And you did. In that moment, the stars seemed to shimmer brighter. The queen knew he was out there, not gone, just beyond her reach, watching over her world as he had always done. From that day on, every year when the sky turned golden at sunrise, the people of Valora gathered on the palace steps. They called it the Day of the Savior, honoring the man who came from nowhere, fought for them, and disappeared in light. But for the queen, it was more than history. It was memory. A memory she carried not as a ruler but as a woman who had loved across centuries. She often whispered to the wind, "Those eyes." I could never forget them, and though no one else could hear it, a faint echo always answered, soft and distant like a star whispering back through time. I remember you too.